Craig Simpson, former NHLer, two-time Stanley Cup champion, Hockey Night in Canada, Saturday night, full of star power. Hey, Craig.
That was a good game. Good to see both teams kind of flex their muscles a little bit, but I think, it had a good atmosphere. And we always like seeing a game where, especially on a Saturday night, good two Canadian teams is always special. Great players, best player in the game, one of the two of the good top lines in the game. And I don't think it disappointed. I think Edmonton will go home disappointed, letting that game kind of slip away from them. But I think from a fan's perspective, it had a little bit of everything.
Yeah, honestly, one of the most entertaining watches, I think, for fans for, going back some ways. Now, what were your thoughts on the one challenge for the Leafs? Hate to start on the negative note, but the goaltending wasn't awesome. Matt Murray's going to go back again tonight, which, depending where you sit on that, might be a good thing for him. But how do you feel about the Matt Murray showing and how it should affect the Leafs' plans going forward?
Well, I think what it's affected was a couple things. It's one of those games that, you could say McDavid's 5-hole goal, okay, that's one he should have had, but I could show you 15 other goaltenders that McDavid made look silly in that regard too. So,
yeah.
I think you can easily just examine and nitpick what was either good or bad. I think the reality is, getting those 2 points and watching what Tampa's done in the last little while with them sputtering along, I think is a big reason why for Sheldon Keefe you're going back with Murray again. You say you kind of got a feeling of knowing what you've got in Samsonov. I don't think there's going to be any question that, especially on home ice, Samsonov's going to be your guy to start out in the playoffs. And I think what's happened with Tampa sputtering and Toronto winning a game like that one where you're down by 2, winning in New Jersey at the end of a 5-game road trip when you're down by 1, just gives you the extra points to say, get the guy back in there, get him some games, get him some reps. And I think you kind of realize what you have. You can't overanalyze or hope that you'll create something else other than giving the guy a chance to play and hopefully play himself to a position that maybe he's got more confidence going into a situation as starting as maybe the backup or a guy who could come in when you need him to.
Craig, there's no question when it comes to Toronto fans or Edmonton fans, high expectations this year. It's almost as if it's Stanley Cup final or bust. While we all marveled at the individual talents of a Saturday night with the likes of McDavid and Marner and the rest of the group, but was there enough Saturday night where you said, regardless of the score, that both these teams aren't going anywhere unless they really clean up a few things? Or was Toronto closer to that cleanup with the exception of maybe Matt Murray?
Yeah, no, I think Toronto as a team, you just look at the underlying numbers. The fact that, okay, they're an offensive-minded team, 7th in the league in that regard, that can get you through. I think the key, though, is, top 7 defensively, too. And that's going to be the key. I think one of our graphics going in with Edmonton was in the last month and a bit, they're the highest scoring team. They've obviously got the best power play, which has been amazing. But they were 26th, 28th, and 28th in goals against, penalty killing, and save percentage. And I don't care how good McDavid is or how good Draisaitl. I think we saw last year, how much and how far those two could carry them, even with Draisaitl playing on one leg against Colorado, basically. But until you can be that good, solid, defensive-minded team in the playoffs, I don't think you're going and going to be able to find a way to get through that too far. So I don't think there's any question, Nick, that the Leafs are ahead of the curve in terms of comparing those two teams. That has been a big issue and big problem with Edmonton, and something that, even look at Stuart Skinner there, you could say the same thing. Campbell's sitting on the bench because he struggled over his last few weeks and up and down all season. And you could say in that game, how do you feel as an Edmonton Oilers fan with Stuart Skinner being your guy going into the playoffs? So I think there are some question marks, but team-wise and collective defensively-wise, I think Toronto's ahead of the curve in that regard.
Just one follow-up on Jack Campbell. There's no question what a start would have meant to him facing the Toronto Maple Leafs, yet the two games that we just recently saw, he doesn't get a sniff. Is that just damning evidence on how much confidence the Oilers have lost in Jack Campbell?
I think it does, Nick, and it's one that's kind of a double whammy. You might look and say, okay, Jack, you try to build up his confidence in his game. You spend time with him in practice days and focusing on maybe your technique and all those things, but you know what a competitive player is, and you look at a couple of opportunities where games that you'd say, this will be my chance. Give me the net again. Let me go. And you don't get it. It might have been the case of as simple as Jay Woodcroft going, I don't know, I think the other guy gives us the best chance and we need these points. Or if I put Jack into this game and he struggles again, I might lose him completely. And so, you never know exactly what the decision-making process was there, but there's no question. I've talked to both you guys before about this of, a coach in the playoffs having to make goaltender decisions is the worst possible scenario that you can have. And I think if we're sticking to the Edmonton-Toronto mode, I think you might have that same scenario presenting itself for both those coaches.